the same page. Then we're going to go through how to do a dihybrid square. And then you have work done. So inheritance patterns, quick review. Unless I tell you otherwise, you can always assume it's normal, dominant, recessive like you learned in 8th grade. Okay? When it's normal, dominant, recessive, if it is the recessive phenotype, you know the genes. If it is the dominant phenotype, you don't know the genes. There's 2 ways to get that. Okay? One way to know if a trait is dominant or recessive is if it can skip generations. If it can skip generations, it has to be a recessive trait. Okay? In the computer lab so far, Gene Adventure level 2, we have a lot of the same mistakes. Your data table looks like this. Right? And people wrote okay, you with me? That's what you got for Dragons for Horns. I've graded morning classes so far. I have no computer today. It's projecting. I'll get to the rest. But over half of the people have made the same mistake. At this point, half of my worksheets have this. Wrong. Why is that wrong? Why is that not right?
Because if it's a capital H and a lowercase h, it will still have horns.
No, it does not have horns.
Oh.
Which means capital H is no horns. Horns is the recessive trait. No horns is the dominant trait. That's a mistake a lot of people make. Okay?
I took it down on my notes yesterday.
Having the trait does not mean dominant. Not having the trait does not mean recessive. Look at the heterozygous one. Whatever the heterozygous one is, whatever you see is what's dominant. The other mistake they make a lot is dominant does not equal more common. Okay? It's not like brown hair is dominant in 90% of the world, but if you go to Sweden, all of a sudden blonde hair becomes dominant. It's still a recessive gene. Their population just doesn't have any dominant genes left. They're all blonde. Everybody's homozygous recessive. Make sense? Okay. Huntington's disease is a genetic disorder. It's dominant. If I have one copy of Huntington's disease, my brain will start to break down and I will die middle-aged. Fortunately, it's super, super uncommon and almost everybody is homozygous recessive and healthy. Okay, so those are some mistakes people make with normal, dominant, recessive. Don't make those. The next one is incomplete dominance. The key with incomplete dominance is you see a mixed or a blended phenotype. So if I cross a red and a white flower, when it's heterozygous, I get a pink flower. Okay, the 2 colors mix for a middle option. In the textbook, that was the dogs. If I cross a big dog with a little dog, I get a dog that's middle-sized. Okay. Yesterday's worksheet, we were confused about incomplete versus co with the cactus. So we had mommy cactus had single spines and daddy cactus had double spines, right? and it said the offspring had a mixture of spines. Some were single, some were double. That is not incomplete dominance. Incomplete dominance would be if the baby cactus had like a spine and a half, something in between the two traits. Make sense? Okay, so what is the one where you have both? Codominance. Right? The key with both of these, incomplete or co, you always know the genotype by looking at them. Because every single different gene combination has a different look. So heterozygous has its own look in both. If you cross two pink flowers, then you can get red, pink, and white back. Alright? Because it'll be okay. So then codominant is you get both. A lot of the examples will be in animals with fur. So if I cross a brown cow with a tan cow, I get a cow that is brown and tan spots. It has both at the same time. Not a light tan color or a medium brown color, it's both at the same time. Okay, cats are the same way. So you can have a black cat, has one dominant gene, orange cat has a different dominant gene, and I don't know if white is the recessive gene. But there's three alleles here, just like there are for blood, right? So your blood type can be A, B, or O. Cats can be black, orange, or whatever the recessive trait is. Pop quiz. What does that cat look like?
Orange.
Black and orange. Is that homozygous or heterozygous? Who said it? It's heterozygous because this gene and this gene are different. Okay? It's got a black gene and an orange gene. Those are two different genes. It's still heterozygous, even though they are both dominant. People are going to make that mistake on the test. Alright, so there's tortoise shell cat. That's actually calico, it's going to be different. So this actually is not the right example, but close enough. There you go, here's your science joke. Anybody get it?
Oh, it's stripes and different stripes and then they put together.
Yep. So if horizontal stripes has a kid with vertical stripes, you get a plaid kid. Alright, we're skipping X-linked, that's next week. We'll come back to this one. Blah, blah, blah. Alright, double Punnett square. Okay, so how do you do a double Punnett square? So you're going to do a double Punnett square for two reasons. In our book notes, we talked about law of independent assortment. So each trait is inherited independently. So you don't want to know, okay, what hair color can I give my kid and what eye color can I give my kid? You can also figure out which combination of hair color, eye color could I give my kid. You don't want to do more than two at a time. The square gets ridiculous. That's when you're going to run a computer program. But today's assignment for the lab challenge, the color of a lab's hair is actually determined by two genes. So two genes determine one trait. So we're going to use the big square to figure that out. Okay, so how do you do this? So let's say I'm heterozygous for hair color and for eye color. How do I do the square? I'm going to take the first A and put it with both options for B. I'm going to take the second A and put it with both options for B. Okay? Anybody lost? Like, this is literally your assignment today. Are you lost? Okay, so if I have a different parent, so that it looks different, let's say this parent is that, okay? So again, I'm going to take the first A and put it with both B's, and then the second A with both B's. Because the A's were homozygous, it's going to repeat. Because they were both heterozygous, they're going to be all different. So if something's homozygous, there will be repeats on this side. Okay, so then to fill it out, do the A's, then the B's. So I'm going to do A, B, B, A, B, B, so on and so forth. All right, so you can figure out any of them. This will be all recessive. Make sense? All right, so that's how you fill out a square. Nope. All right, so Mendel did this with his peas, and he figured out that yellow peas or green peas and round seed peas or wrinkled peas, if you crossed heterozygous ones, you could get everything. So if mom and dad pea plant were both heterozygous, you got all the possible combos. Most of them are going to be green and round, because that's both the dominant traits. But you can get green with wrinkled seeds, you can get yellow with round seeds, or you can get yellow with wrinkled seeds. So, in chocolate lab, or in labs, the color is determined by 2 genes. Okay? The E gene determines whether or not the lab can even make color. So if you have recessive E's, you can't make any color. It doesn't matter what the B's are, you're a yellow lab. Okay? If at least one E is dominant, then you got to look at the B genes. If B is also dominant, you have a black lab. If B is recessive and E is dominant, you have a chocolate lab. You with me? Well, I'll go through that a few more times. But I want to start a sketchy puppy mill, and I'm going to sell black labs, or I'm going to sell labs. Hopefully not black labs, because they're not going to make me very much money. Okay, I can go to the shelter and pick up any one of a dozen black labs at any time. Black labs don't sell. That's why my new puppy is a black dog, because he literally didn't sell. So he was 70% off. Look, true story. You can make the most money with the chocolate lab, and you can make some money with the yellow lab. There are some suckers that I can convince that my breeding operation is better than the shelter, though, so I'll make a little bit of money with black labs. All right? So, I own dog number 12. Already. You've got to pick which other dog should I buy to start my sketchy puppy mill so that I make the most amount of money. Don't do that for real, by the way. Puppy mills are bad. All right? So if you go to Schoology, to the lab breeding challenge, this worksheet is actually better. I edited it, and it's better now. But also in Schoology, the slides you need for the lab color are here. So if you open that up, first it's going to remind you, it doesn't matter what the second letter is, homozygous or heterozygous, if they've got a dominant B and a dominant E, it will be a black lab. Maybe. Okay? It can be either homozygous or heterozygous. If the B's are recessive, but there's at least one dominant E, you get a chocolate lab. If the E's are recessive, the B's don't matter at all, it's a yellow lab. So again, if we cross two, this is all 16 possible combinations. And what color they are. That's my profits. So there's your challenge. I would recommend, if you have the paper version, you copy the changes I made here, because these were good changes. I own dog 12. So in both cases, mommy dog is dog 12. So you can copy that down if you're going to do the paper version. And then I actually did give you a better data table for your results. So for example, dog number 1 is the wrong choice. I'll just go ahead and tell you that, okay? So I'm going to breed dog number 12 with dog number 1. Dog number 1 is homozygous dominant for both. So dog number 1 is big B, big B, big E, big E. So it's going to be big B, big E on all 4 spots. Do not copy this. This is a wrong answer. Okay, so if I fill my square out, and then this for all of 8 of these, and these will be heterozygous for both, for all 8 of these. Okay, so if I use dog number 1, I get 0 chocolate puppies, I get 16 black puppies, and I get 0 yellow puppies. So that's the least amount of money I could possibly make. It's a wrong answer. But that's how you do the assignment. And then I'm going to pick another dog and try again and see if I can do better. You can pick dog number 12 again. Right? Because there's more than one person in this room with brown hair. It's not like that's the only dog on the planet with that DNA. Questions? All right, go.